Hey, thanks for listening. I'm Jenny. I'm a life coach, and today I'm talking about productivity for INFJs and empaths. The big myth about productivity is that just working harder is a lie. If you're trying to sail to a destination and there's no wind, you can't just sail harder. You can't just work harder. If the environment isn't ready or ripe for you to succeed. And so sometimes the harder you push, the more you're just going to burn yourself out without actually getting anywhere. Productivity is not working harder. It's finding the balance between work, between study, between recreation and relaxation. Um, Burnout and depression can look the same, but they need completely different things. Burnout means you need to rest, and depression means that you need to start moving, start acting, start finding your life force. Um, so, so in terms of productivity, it's also important to kind of recognize, do you feel like you're in burnout where you need to rest, or do you feel like you're in depression where you need more energy, more life force to do things. You're kind of paralyzed into resting um, rather than mobilized. Willpower is not a virtue, it's not a personality trait, it's just dopamine regulation. The ability to get things done is more about brain chemistry. It is not about moral character. And so, if you break your goals into small, easy steps, you will get dopamine hits, which will help you increase your willpower. Um, so, that's important. It's important to accumulate as many little small wins as you can. Um, Something else that humans tend to do is invent things to do to avoid the important things. This is usually a fear-based behavior, or even being overly productive with busy work instead of focusing on what really matters. A common thing we do is just learning more. We feel like we always need to learn more and more and more and more. Um, it's a veiled form of procrastination because it feels productive, but sometimes it's actually counterproductive. And so um, sometimes learning is the opposite of doing. Um, and so we have to think of, if we're doing these mental gymnastics to justify not starting the thing we really want to do from a place of fear. Um, we think of hard work as like this huge sacrifice, but a lot of the times it doesn't mean working harder. Those sacrifices, um, it's better to think of it as getting rid of something. That is the sacrifice that is often needed, is simplifying or getting rid of things. Doing less and not more is often the way to get productive. Um, Input does not equal output. The harder you work on something, it does not mean the more you achieve in the long run. And when you establish fixed hours for your work, like a 9 to 5 job, you end up finding unproductive ways to fill it, right? There's so many people who could get their actual work done in 20 hours a day. But because they're forced to spread it out over 40 hours, there's tons of unproductive time in there. Productivity does not exist on a linear graph. Um, that's only true for work that's basic and repetitive, um, or like something boring, like data entry. But but for other things, for creative things, um, there's a law of diminishing returns, where the longer you work on something, the more the quality goes down, because you only have so much creative juice a day. We don't have 40 hours of creative juice a day. We just don't. And so if you're working on creative things for 40 hours a day, the quality of that creation is going to start to go down. Um, so the longer you work, very often, the less you actually get done. And this is Parkinson's law, which says that work expands, um, to fill the time available for its completion. So if you take on less, if you spend less time working, you can actually accomplish more according to this law. So when it comes to knowledge or creative work, our productivity is usually stays in the first up to 4 or 5 hours, sometimes less. So everything after that is going to suffer diminished returns, to the point where working 12 hours or 16 hours, there's almost no difference in the amount of work or the quality of work. So to embrace this concept that doing less means accomplishing more, you have to tame your impatience. That's usually what drives this overworking, this filling hours with unproductive time, is an impatience to finish the thing. And so you really have to practice letting go of that impatience. Sometimes we procrastinate to avoid unpleasant emotions. So it's also really important to acknowledge, what are we avoiding? What are the emotions we're avoiding? What is the fear? And then what is the fear under the fear? Um, so so it's often that we're just afraid of doing the thing that we really want to be doing. And it's also important to balance um, doing with being. It's important to balance um, doing, masculine energy versus just being feminine energy, just existing. We need time to exist to get downloads. We need time to exist for our subconscious to give us insights. So sometimes that's when we get our best ideas, is when we're just driving, when we're taking a shower, when we're doing something monotonous. You need that existing and being time to get things done and to get downloads and to get insights and to hear your intuition. So sometimes resting is actually the most productive thing that you can do. So also, um, if you're stuck and you don't know what to do, doing nothing is very often an overlooked option. It's easy to say this, but hard to do. It's hard for us to give ourselves permission to rest because a lot of us are overachievers. So you have to start thinking of that as a way to actually be productive. Um, Rest because you are already deserving of it, not because you need to earn it by reaching a certain milestone. Okay. Um, so build in do nothing time, build in do nothing days. I also like to call these rebellion days. Um, give yourself breaks and space to see if there's something else you would rather be doing, to see if that is still the thing you want to be working on, or if there's something else that is calling you. You have to follow your heart, you have to follow your soul, and you need space to be able to hear, what direction that is pulling you in. You have to balance routine with novelty. Boredom is a tool. Creativity requires space. Mental space requires intentionally sacrificing productivity. Um, the productivity sacrifice actually inspires creativity and thus becomes productive. Again, we're fishing in refractive water. You can't aim directly at productivity. You have to aim off to the side in order to hit the target. Um, Business is the enemy of productivity. So schedule time to not be productive is one of the most productive things you can do. Scheduling time to just let your subconscious deliver whatever it wants to deliver to you. Um, so choose to let go of things. You might even have to let go of good things to make time for even better things, to create space for even better things. So think about what you're willing to sacrifice. Think about what your most important goal or project is. If you had to focus on one thing, if you had to prioritize one thing, what is your most important project? What is the most important action you need to take towards that project? And to increase your life force, to increase your willpower, you often have to trade something or outsource something or use other people's life force to help you, like ordering groceries or having things delivered, right? Those things cut down on your battery drain, if you can have other people doing things for you and helping you, that saves more of your batteries, um, for getting the most important things done. Simplify as much as you can, and think about, what are you willing to give up? What can you eliminate? What can you cut out? Um, so instead of making a list of goals, make a list of things that drain your energy, or things that annoy you, or people who drain you, and then try to eliminate them. Sometimes being productive means eliminating things more than adding new things onto your plate. So think about what is draining your willpower, what is draining your energy, and focus on eliminating those things. Achieving goals, paradoxically, is very often about what you can remove. Another trick is to work on two projects at once. If you're going to procrastinate on project A, you can go work on project B. And then when you get tired of project B, you can go back to project A. So in that way, you can be twice as productive while doing nothing but procrastinate. Um, and action isn't the effect of motivation, it's the cause of it. So if you have a project that is important to you, think of this like tending a plant, right? You can't control when it blooms, but you can control that you're taking care of it. And so you need to think of your creative projects like a plant that needs attention, and you can't control when it's done, but you can take care of it. So I like to set a timer for this, and devote a certain amount of time a day to a project, instead of having a to-do list I have to check off. Because with creative projects, it's often impossible to know how long something is going to take, or how much time something is going to take. And really the only thing you can do is reverse engineer your day, find out how much free time you actually have, and then decide how much of that free time you're going to set aside for your project. Um, and that becomes the to-do list, right? I spent 30 minutes on this. That's something you can check off no matter what happens. Whereas if it's, I need to finish a website, you know, and then it takes longer than you think it's going to, then you don't get to check it off, then you don't get that dopamine hit. Um, Devoting your work to someone else. We are usually always putting other people's needs before our needs. And so the hack for this is to devote your work to someone else. Think about how this project is going to help other people. Focus on how it's going to help other people more than how it's going to help you. In the long run, it's good to learn to start putting your needs first. But if you're not there, focus on how it's going to help other people. This is a way to hack the same neural pathway instead of creating a new one, right? If you're, the new neural pathway needs to be that you put yourself first, but the current neural pathway is that you put everyone else first. This is how you hack that neural pathway, is to just think about how your project's going to help other people. So the more we talk about a project, the less likely we are to act on it. Keeping a project secret sometimes protects the life force around it. And the more we talk about it, the more bored we'll get with it, because we get bored easily again. And if we're talking to people who aren't supportive or neutral or non-judgmental, people who mean well can still very often sow a lot of self-doubt in us if they say the wrong thing. And so the more you talk about a project, the more likely you are to invite people to plant seeds of self-doubt into your subconscious. So sometimes keeping projects secret helps protect them. It also helps to have a ritual. When you're about to start your project, a trigger, creating a ritual over time creates a trigger, and that trigger helps to trigger you into creative mode. So music can be a good trigger. Drums can be a good trigger. Listening to music on repeat or something instrumental can be a good trigger. It could be lighting a candle. It could be doing some stretching, whatever works best for you. Measure success in time spent. Measure success in the habits you create, rather than the long-term goals. Productivity is more a focus of productivity is more the product of focus than time. And goals steal joy from the present moment because they project our happiness into the future when the goal is reached. So intention is different from having a goal. Goals are things that await you in the future, and it's important to have them. But when you're waiting for future satisfaction, it makes the present to feel and appear lacking. So if you can focus on the present moment, give yourself a win in the present moment. Um, it connects our purpose and leads to a better place of well-being. It keeps us aligned with our goal without projecting our happiness into the future. So think about turning your goals into habits. Treat goals like a garden. Don't worry about harvesting them. Just worry about planting the seeds. Um, and creative people usually have more ideas than we know what to do with. We have no shortage of ideas. Um, and some ideas take longer to sprout than others. Some die before they're finished growing. Some turn into something big. Some grow into something small. And so it's okay to treat your ideas like a garden. It's okay to have a constant cycle of things that are growing and dying, and blooming at all different times and growing at all different rates. If you can just accept that and allow it and embrace the creative process, it will allow you to be more patient. The kinder you are to your plants, the kinder they will be to you. Okay. So you can't force a project to grow faster, just like you can't force a tree to bear fruit. So just keep tending to your ideas until they're ready to be harvested in their own time. So procrastination hacks, sometimes taking the pressure off helps, but also sometimes putting pressure on helps. Giving ourselves a deadline does help. Sometimes the adrenaline of a short timeline triggers motivation and focus through adrenaline. So it's a dance between learning when to use deadlines and pressure and when not to. It's going to be experimental. You're going to have to kind of play with it. And different projects might require different approaches. Um, so also think about try to multitask less, because when we're engaging in context switching, which is switching between different tasks, even if the tasks are simple and easy, the more times we have to switch contexts, the more that drains our battery also. So try to eliminate distractions, try to eliminate multitasking. If you can do that, you're more likely to get into a flow state. You're more likely to go into deep time. Um, if you've ever worked on a project and you just were in deep focus for hours without even realizing you were hungry or needed to use the bathroom, that is when you go into flow states, into deep time. And so the easiest way to get there is to eliminate distractions, not multitask, not context switch. So efficiency is a trap. Remove distractions. Efficiency is about focus. Also think about batching tasks, especially tasks that you don't enjoy. Um, Uninstall apps, cut interruptions. Um, if this is for a job or for work, you don't always have a ton of control over that, but just do your best. Um, Try to eliminate as many switching costs as you can, because that saves your brain power, more of your brain power for the task itself. For example, if you're checking your email 5 times a day, you're going to drain your battery more than if you batch it all and check it once a day. If you have notifications for your email every time you get one, that's going to drain your battery faster than if you just check to see if there's new emails once a day. So think about ways to simplify, eliminate distractions, and focus on one task at a time as much as you can. Body doubling can also be helpful, especially for people with neurodivergence. this is where there's another person nearby just existing, right? They don't even have to be interacting with you. Sometimes it's better if they're not interacting with you, but sometimes just having another person there, um, just having their presence helps us to focus. This is called body doubling. It helps us feel supported. It helps to feel like we're not alone. Um, there's co-working groups that can help with this. There's silent writing groups that can help with this. There's a website called FocusMate if you want someone online. There's a website called FocusMate that you can check out. So those groups can be really helpful if you're someone who thinks that body doubling is helpful for your productivity. Um, and it's also important to think about your energy wallet, right? Um, I want to be a straight B person in all of my endeavors because that is where I can give the most even energy to everything that's important to me. If I'm trying to get an A in one place, it means I'm going to get a C somewhere else. If I'm giving A energy to one of my priorities, it means another one of my priorities is getting a C. So you have to think about how much energy do you actually have and how can you spread it out the way that you want to spread it out, because it's impossible to get A's in all of your priorities. So how do you want to deal with that, and how do you want to approach it? If you can't afford to, it can also help to have a menu instead of a to-do list. It can help to, have a to-do list, but treat it more like a menu. What do I feel like I have the energy for today? That doesn't work if you keep doing the fun things and putting the important things off, then you're going to have to change strategies. But sometimes it helps to treat things like a menu. And sometimes, I'll feel like cleaning in the morning, and sometimes I'll feel like cleaning at night, or sometimes I'll feel like exercising at lunch, and sometimes I'll feel like exercising after work. And so if you have things that still need to get done, sometimes it helps to just pick and choose what feels right in that moment, as long as it still all fits into your day. Um, Sometimes we also need to do battery filling activities first. We need to do self care activities first, or fun activities first, because sometimes our batteries are just too drained already to do more battery draining things. So sometimes the most productive thing you can do is to do self care, is to do something fun, is to do something relaxing before you go into anything that's battery draining. So think about how doing your self-care first, front loading your day with pleasurable activities to recharge your batteries, um, can actually help you get more done. And leverage your most productive times of day. This might change, this might stay the same. Your most productive time of day might be first thing in the morning or late at night. Or it might be somewhere in the middle. So pay attention to your most productive times of day. Think about how you want to use those for your benefit instead of your job, or other people in your life. How can you use your most productive times a day for whatever is most important to you? And sometimes this might change with the seasons. For me, winter, my routine in the winter is way different than my routine in summer. No matter how I want it to be, that's just how it is. Um, so so once you find a routine that works, also be flexible, if you're one of those people. So that's everything I have for today, everybody. Your homework is, instead of making a list of goals, is to make a list of everything that stresses you out, and then look at what you might be able to eliminate. Look at what you could get rid of, or at least maybe lessen. Anything that drains your batteries, look at how you can reduce it or eliminate it. That's everything I have for today, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you want coaching or more content, check out my website. The links are in the description.